The Atheist Debates Patreon project presents God, Abortion Provider? Before people, well, you already made assumptions just from that title. This isn't about all the babies that God supposedly drowned when he was supposedly flooding the entire world. It's not about the supposed killing of the firstborn in Egypt or any other biblical baby bashing. This is really about what God knows and is in fact in charge of. When I talked about whether or not there's free will and the notion of libertarian free will being completely wrecked, especially in the view of a God that is both the creator of this world and knows what would happen and could have chosen otherwise. So if God created the world, could have created a different world, and in both cases knows what will happen, then God picked this universe, picked the universe where I'm an atheist doing this video, picked the universe where I'm recording this video with these words right now, instead of a world where I'm recording this video with slightly different words right now. If he knew at the beginning of the universe everything about what I was going to do, then he picked this universe. This is a slightly different take on this that came up from a meme. I'm still working on putting together a package of memes for a video series that I'm going to probably call Beast Memes, where I basically rank memes. Believe me, most of them are going to be D tier, F tier, garbage tier, because I hate memes that try to actually express a complex topic in bumper sticker form. But let's assume that we have a God that is omni. He's all powerful, all knowing, all benevolent, etc. The God of the Bible that is the creator, sustainer, governor, and ordainer of everything that ever happens in the universe. By the way, if any of you apologists or preachers want to steal that, I think that'd be really good. Can you imagine stand up on Sunday and saying, our God is a powerful God. He is the creator, the sustainer, the governor and ordainer of everything that happens in this world. Yeah, you're welcome. I'll probably see it on a t-shirt in a year or so. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. This is as close as we get to anything that might really be used in opposition to abortion. Outside of this, the Bible is largely silent on an issue and treats in utero fetuses and children up to 1 month as different than people. The Jews, when they would take the census, because of, low survival rates and mortality rates among children, didn't count anybody till they were a month old. And the Bible has different criteria. If a man struggles with a man and a woman steps in and they cause a miscarriage, it's a different penalty than if they'd have killed a person type thing. You can go through all these, but also there's just like Lamentations 3 verses 27 through 40 that basically describes how nothing happens that isn't according to God's will. And within Christendom in particular, I don't know if this exists quite so much in Judaism, but within Christendom, you have this notion that everything happens according to God's plan, no matter how awful it is. If you got cancer, that was God's plan. This is this notion that God's never going to give you anything that you can't overcome with his help. Everything exists to teach you a lesson, to teach you how to be more Christ-like. Everything about this world is, you could look at it as a testing ground, but as a minimum is a crucible that you must go through, ordained and decided upon by God, knowing ahead of time what your decisions would be, so that you come out the other side the way God intended, or in accordance with God's plan. Everything that happens has to happen according to God's plan. Which means if you're struggling to get pregnant, and you pray, and you wind up pregnant, God gifted you with a pregnancy. He knew he was going to gift you with it at the beginning of time. He absolutely knew that you would come to him. It was still of your free will. We won't get into the free will aspect of this now. But he knew you were going to come to him, and he knew that he was going to grant this, and your pregnancy was according to God's plan, as was your request for that pregnancy. If you get pregnant, according to most versions of Christianity, it's because God decided that's what would happen. God granted you a child for some reason or another. There are stories of infertile women in the Bible, and God, through his prophets, granting them babies. Those tales are there specifically to reinforce the idea that God is the one who decides who, how, and when someone can conceive. Which means if you got pregnant, God wanted you to be pregnant. If you got pregnant out of wedlock, God wanted you to be pregnant out of wedlock. It's some kind of trial, some kind of test. It's there to teach you something. We hear stuff like this regularly. But if that's the case, then you have to ask yourself, why does God gift pregnancy to people who he knows will abort the fetus, while refusing to gift pregnancy to devout followers who are suffering from infertility and desperately begging for the child that they dream about? You have people who will abort and people who would kill to have a baby. And the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-wise governor, sustainer, and ordainer of the universe declares, I'm going to give a baby to this person and let them kill it. Medical fertility problems exist, and I tried to find statistics to find out whether or not people of any particular religious denomination suffered from fertility problems at a lower rate. And I could not find anything that even hinted at or suggested that, for example, Southern Baptists have lower rates of infertility than Catholics, who have lower rates than, Scientologists or Muslims or Buddhists or Hindus or whatever else. I couldn't find statistics like that. But the global statistics are that 1 in 6 people, 17.5%, experience infertility, and infertility being defined as a failure to achieve pregnancy after 12 months of regular unprotected sex. If you are trying to conceive, because somebody with, ovaries and uterus that are functioning, who can potentially get pregnant, has like a 20 to 30% chance of getting pregnant on any given month where there's, unprotected sex, where viable sperm are present as well. But about 17.5%, 1/6 of the entire population of the planet, experiences infertility. The infertility can cause stress, financial consequences, social stigma, depression, anxiety. It can lead to all kinds of things. Infertility, for people who are desiring to have children, is a massive, expensive, costly, damaging problem. And so we as human beings have decided, hey, we're going to have some options. First of all, obviously the ancient options of adoption and surrogates. There's now modern, newer options. There are prophylactic measures and contraceptive measures to prevent unwanted pregnancies. There are treatments to halt pregnancies. There are also treatments and medical procedures you can undergo to increase your likelihood. There are drugs that can be used, and there are technologies like in vitro fertilization, which are underfunded and come at a very high cost. So we're in this position where there's only a handful of possibilities. If you want to get pregnant and you're not getting pregnant, And if you didn't want to get pregnant and you do become pregnant, either the case is that God does not know what's going to happen, in which case, whatever happens, happens. Or number two, God knows what's going to happen, but doesn't intervene, in which case, whatever happens, happens. Or three, God knows and intervenes in accordance with a plan that apparently only he knows. And if under that case, then he's sending babies to be aborted and denying pregnancies to devout believers, and then maybe hoping that they adopt the unwanted babies that aren't aborted, because plenty of unwanted babies still get put up for adoption, and they are in fact adopted. Don't, if you're making the arguments about abortion, don't ever suggest that, if you guys are opposed to abortion, then why don't you adoption? Because they do. Christian adoption agencies, probably the biggest resource for adoption globally in the history of the world. It is just a bad argument to say, well, why don't you adopt them? Because that's what ends up happening. It's older kids that are stuck in the foster system where adoptions don't happen regularly enough. And that's, you can push back on that. But if God knows and intervenes in accordance with some plan, from the perspective of someone who doesn't merely just default trust that God has a plan and that it's working, it also doesn't matter. It's still a whatever happens, happens. Because the plan, God's plan being real, is from our perspective no different from God's plan being fictional, because we don't know what the plan is. And the plan seems to operate at the exact rate of chance. It's not like Protestants are 12% less likely to suffer infertility problems than godless heathens. It's just not. You find data like that, and now all of a sudden we've got a new thing to investigate. So in all of those situations where God knows, where God doesn't know, whatever happens, happens. Where God knows but won't intervene, whatever happens, happens. And where God knows and may in fact be intervening by some plan that he knows, it's still whatever happens, happens. So we're stuck there. The World Health Organization, here's a quote: "Millions of people face catastrophic healthcare costs after seeking treatment for infertility, making this a major equity issue and all too often a medical poverty trap for those affected." This was said by Dr. Pascal Lalotte, Director of Sexual and Reproductive Health and Research at the World Health Organization, including the United Nations Special Program of Research Development and Research Training in Human Reproduction. To continue the quote, "Better policies and public financing can significantly improve access to treatment and protect poorer households from falling into poverty as a result." Fertility issues abound. And as far as we can tell, we're the only ones who can actually do something to fix this. I'm unable to have children of my own, as was my brother, who adopted 2 wonderful kids. I think my ex-wife has talked about her fertility issues. There are fertility issues abound. People genuinely care about this stuff. And there are scientific organizations that are working on these problems. But God is not only doing nothing that we can see, but his followers are standing in the way of some medical solutions and financial solutions to make those scientific solutions affordable. If God is doing anything, he's too busy supplying the abortion epidemic, as Christians like to refer to it, he's supplying that abortion epidemic with a never-ending stream of unwanted fetuses for destruction, when he could have miraculously supplied infertile couples with their life's greatest desire and didn't. It's almost like God is doing nothing and his followers are making it worse. See you next time. Goodbye.